I've been told for years by Russians that the reason that there used to be all sorts of, Polish apples and German potatoes across Russia until 2014, it was because in the EU, the government supports farmers so much, and that even every drop of diesel fuel given to a farmer in Germany comes from the government and everything's free and it's wonderful. So, to what extent does the EU government actually help farmers? Because right now, farmers in the EU seem to be pretty darn angry at the government.
The issue is that from uh, from let's say after the Second World War till 2014, there was a direct subsidizing of products, milk, apples, everything. Every agricultural produce was directly till 2008 when the financial crisis was there. It was actually not a financial crisis, it was a food crisis. But that's something else that people don't understand. So there was a direct support, like for milk, for exporting milk to another country like Africa, Russia, and all other countries in the world. You got a subsidy of exporting of milk. That was like 10 cents per liter of milk. So that means that the European farmers had a 10-cent, how to say it, subsidy on milk to produce on the world market. So in 2008, if you see the grain market grain was like 100 euros per ton, and milk was like 25 cents. So in 2008, the European Union, under pressure of, like, it was not only the green ones, how you want to say it, and like other people, they were saying the farmers get too much subsidy. So slowly, the final program to finish all the subsidies was in 2008, and suddenly all the food gets more expensive. So if you understand, farmers don't make much milk. They don't make much money in total. So if you lose your subsidy, you cannot produce. So the prices were getting higher. So grain went up from 100 euros to 200 euros per ton. Milk went up from 25 cents on the world market till 40 cents today. So that made a big trigger. So from then on, the European Union, the production was going equal or lower. And the produce in all the other countries went higher, including like Russia, Africa, New Zealand, Australia. So yes, there were big subsidies, but these subsidies are now based on other things. So if you have birds in your area, or you do well, green stuff, then you get subsidies.
Well, like I was saying, Russians have this perception that the EU government just bends over backwards for farmers, and in Russia, they get the stiff. So, to what extent is that true? I mean, is the Russian government just completely dropping the ball here?
So uh, if you have all these subsidies, it's like the same amount of subsidies as in Europe. It's not a big difference. So it's like nowadays you can get like 3 till 6 cents subsidies on direct produce in Russia, and in Europe you will get this amount of money you will get for other things like improving manure storage, or improving your tractor, improving your milking parlor, what's good for your labor efficiency. So in total the subsidies is the same, but before that in Europe it was like really big subsidies directly related on the produce of things. So, but it's nowadays is relatively equal.
Now, you mentioned that your belief is that the real core problem behind the farmer protests in the Netherlands and across the EU is related to the government not having a vision, not having a plan, and especially constantly changing regulations over and over again, okay? Now, is there something that maybe Russian farmers should be demanding from the Russian government? Is there something here that the Russian government really does that's kind of bad and gets in the way of business?
There are things what governments could be improving, but in the end, it should be done by the owner, or the government can support your business with 5 till 10% of your turnover. And that's basically everywhere in the world, that's like the profit. But in the end, it's the management of the dairy which can make much more money or less money. So it's in the end, it's the farm owners or entrepreneurs. It's in the end his business, and he can make money or lose money. So it's not really like government should be being involved in it. But I think there are like things what could be subsidized relatively cheap and efficient than what I do now. Like what I will say is like invest more in manure storage, or invest more money in alfalfa or in clover seeds, so to produce more protein of your field, and um, subsidize the usage of sex semen for dairy or for meat. So then you have with relatively small investments, you can have a much more big impact than just to say, we just give you like 2 rubles per liter of milk. It's not always money what helps. Sometimes it's just knowledge and
So what you're saying is it would probably be best for the Russian government just to get the heck out of the way of farmers and let them be, and everything will work out?
yes, but that's the problem. If what I was saying before and all the times, these subsidies, that was just a part of the um, business model. And what would happen in 2008, the subsidies were gone, and then suddenly feed were much more expensive. And what will happen now? Europe, America, all the countries in the world, they don't have nitrogen. So for next year, if this war doesn't end up next year, I think we will lose 40% of the agriculture produced in the world. That's a really bad history if that will happen. That means that or uh, meat production has to go down like 5 times, 10 times. So people won't be able to buy meat. How people won't be able to buy milk. People will go back like China, like it was like 20 years ago. You just will get 100 grams of bread or rice or anything what you eat per day, and there will be no high quality protein like meat and milk. That's what the world will could see in the next from May till September next year. What's happening now is just a top of the ice cream. But that's the main big problem which people don't understand what will happen next year. Because this year, let's say in February when all this fertilizer thing started in November, but all the fertilizer was already divided in the world. And now there is no fertilizer in the world. So all the agriculture produce will go down with 40 till 60%. So there will be half less of grain in the world.
Now, when the special operation began on February 24th, no one was saying that there are going to be massive farmer protests in the EU as a result of it. That was kind of a little bit of a surprise to everyone on both sides of the line. So, what is ultimately at play here? What do these Dutch farmers want, and do you sympathize with or support their position?
So the problem is the well, if you take like the Dutch government, the problem is that there is um, no goal, no vision. So they change the rules every 2-3 years, and then you have to change some part of your business. Then you have to go for grass. Then you need emission empty floors. Then you need other things. So it's all these things what's going on, and changing laws, changing laws, changing laws. What makes people crazy? So if you see a average farmer, they earn like 40,000 euros. That's like on a yearly basis. But then they have to make new investments to compete with, to or not compete, to compete with the new regulations. And suddenly you have to invest another 30, 40, 100,000 euros. But it's never get paid. It's a two-way. All these subsidies, they are not going to the farmers, they go to the surrounding companies who are saying that the world is going to make better. And so all these farmers, so this group of companies, they have so big lobby on the government, and they think okay, let's this year, let's make the rabbits happy, something like that. I don't know how to tell it to you. Let's make a program, then we make the subsidies, they get like 10, 20 euros for something. But then it's just going crazy. So from all these subsidies, these farmers don't get anything. And those farmers, they just want to have, let's say, okay, if we need to have like all eco dairy products, then this product should be like 2 times more expensive, then people should pay it. But that's also not going to happen, because if you see like all the biological, ecological products, it's just 3 till 4 till 5% of the total market, and only half is like that people really want these products. The other half, they just buy it because it was in the supermarket. So the problem is that there is no vision, changing laws, and the farmers, they want to have a real vision and a real goal to go for, and that's not provided. So people are living in a vacuum, and they want to understand where they should go, or where they want to go. That's the main problem, and that's why farmers are basically protesting. Like what they now say, they made a new law for nitrogen, but nitrogen is everywhere, and it's then they want to preserve the nature, and if you calculate it back as a farmer, then you just should then they're talking about 2-3 kilograms nitrogen deposition on a hectare of nature. That's like the same of like every 50 years cutting the forest, or even less. Yes, that's even less. But or just kill one every 5 year one deer or pork, and then you can remove it from the area, and then you have your nitrogen deposition. It's already fine. It's a real complicated story, but it's just a nonsense story, and nobody understands it. Also, the government don't understand it. Like fertilizer and manure usage, it's like a quarter of what it was like in the 70s. Like it's already 4 times lower. And what happens now? I don't know how you kill these plants and what grows in the canals, but it's not growing anymore because there is no nitrogen anymore. And they complain that it's a nitrogen proficit, but it's a nitrogen deficit. They're just totally away of what's really going to happen. Like the fish in the North Sea, it's going less because there's less nitrogen and phosphor going into the North Sea. And if there is less feed, then the fish won't grow. It's that simple. It is. And it's not a problem because farmers overuse it, it's just because it's already 3 to 4 times less than what it is in the 70s. Because in the 70s, I started studying in agriculture in 2000, and we had to learn how much manure you could put on a hectare of land, and that the corn didn't die. That was from the 70s till the 95. That was normal way of life. How much manure you can put on a hectare? Yes, that was really exaggerated, but it's now better agriculture practices, and there's less losses, and all these less losses, they don't go into nature, so the nature will grow worse because there is no excess nitrogen in the whole northwest of Europe.
So is what you're trying to say that some critically bad decisions and policies from the government have led to there being a huge deficit of nitrogen in the soil? Is that what you're getting at?
And so you have different forms of nitrogen. So you have nitrogen, which is in the air, just like NW. You have ammonia, you have ammoniac, and so you have also nitrogen, which can fly 200 till 2 kilometers. And they make a real problem of it. And it's really complicated knowledge. It's actually simple, but there's a lot of knowledge being done in the Netherlands how it flies. But then they say like if you have a big pig farm, then only nitrogen can fly like 400 meters from your barn. So um, so normally around the farm there is agricultural land. So then the agricultural land will produce more grass of corn or whatever it grows. So the problem is that there are not anymore people who understand nature and not understand social, and so the government really makes strange decisions which is not understandable for people who are farmers' knowledge. It's like that. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a complicated thing.
So why did you come to Russia to farm? And especially from what I understand, you're pretty far up north. I mean, isn't that a kind of risky, low reward venture, or am I missing something here?
Agriculture is a really if you see the top richest people in the world, it's agriculture. The only thing is, some make money, some don't make money. So it's all how you manage these things. So in Russia, you can make from minus 50% till plus 30% on your investment. So the goal is to be on the plus 30%. So it's not like minus 50. Let's take minus 10 till plus 30. So why I went to Russia in the first start, I just was a student and was thinking, because what we learned, I finished the Institute of Agricultural Institute. I finished in 2005, and we had to learn that we had to produce milk for 25 cents, and it should be all biological, ecological, and all that stuff. But that's not possible. Milk at that time should be cost like 40 cents, what it was in 2008. So just to imagine, like for my class, more than 50% was immigrating. 1/4 they went to other agricultural companies. The other quarter they had their farms in the Netherlands. So some of my classmates already had to stop their dairy because of financial, psychological, and financial, because it's not possible to make real good profit on dairy in the Netherlands. And from all the other classmates who were emigrated, they're still farming. So so that's after almost, let's say, 20 years. So it's just a small.
Okay, I get it. Many of your classmates felt that they had to leave the country in order to become successful farmers. But again, why specifically Russia?
So in the beginning, we were thinking where not to go. So we didn't want to go to Europe. We didn't want to go to America. So we didn't want to go to the first, how we call it in English, first countries, because that's where we're living. So, and at that time, my brother went from Senegal. He was building for civil engineering, and he went back after the second times, and he said everything he built was lost. So then we just had to switch the globe, and then after the big Pacific Ocean and Atlantic Ocean, we went to Russia. So that's pretty simple, actually. So then we just sent some emails, and then we had a practical training in Russia. So, and after that, I stayed here. That's a little bit the idea.
Now, during the Canadian trucker protests, many of the truckers and some of their supporters had their bank accounts frozen and faced other forms of, let's just call it, intimidation, especially financially. So, has this also happened in the EU? Are Dutch farmers facing their bank accounts being depleted or blocked? Or is democracy still alive in the West just a little bit?
No, nothing about it. Because, like yesterday, or today, I don't know, they putting like big bales of hay with tires, and they put it on the highways, and they put it in fires, and the police said we are not going to put them to jail because we don't know who they are, uh, and well, because the police is like in the same situation as the farmers. The police also have no vision and also have no goals. So these people, they also a little bit support the farmers. And so the police decided not to go after the farmers who put these bales of hay in fire. So there is a little bit like 50-50 that people, I think maybe 60-40, that people still supported the farmers. And that's like a real idea, because if you cannot find in the Netherlands a guy who with a tractor and with a wagon, and you cannot trace it back to his home now, then something really stupid is going on. If you cannot find it by videos or anything, that's 100% for sure that somebody knows who it was and where he lives.
So, what are the primary differences between farming in Russia and the EU, from bureaucracy to weather to even the animals themselves?
There is no difference. It's just a cow is a cow. Genetics are already like 20-30 years. It's like potentially the same. And the biggest difference is the infrastructure, which is behind the old farms, because the old farms, they had their whole system of people. So every like dairy, you had like 50 people working, and they were producing like 7 tons of milk. Even like nowadays, the cost of production for labor is higher than in Europe because of labor inefficiency. But labor is more cheaper. So in the end, it's the same cost per liter of milk for labor. Even labor is here like 5-10 times lower than in Europe. So So in financial way, it's the same, but it's everywhere. Like with agriculture, some people make money, some people lose money. Even on like a dairy, like with 100 cows, there is even in Europe there is like on a €500,000 turnover, there can be uh, profits can be €100,000 difference between minus €50,000 and plus 50, or let's say minus €30,000 till plus €70,000. Same farm, same cows, same equipment, different manager. Only here it's the is the scale. So you can lose a lot of money, you can make a lot of money. Basically, in the cost of production, it's the same. Land is cheaper, but you have higher cost because you have lower production per hectare. So you need to plow more. You need to plow double the amount than what you can produce in Europe. So it's all relatively.
So what you're saying is Russians work for an extremely tiny salary, but their productivity is next to zero. Why is that?
It's because of history. It's just because of depression in '39, Second World War, Second World War, making in the '70s, making uh, these big farms, and in the '90s when farming was not profitable. So you keep working with low skilled and low efficient people. So it's just it's for centuries, for a century, all the smart people were killed.
Now, I've mentioned on this program many times the omnipresent Russian inferiority complex in terms of the West. And I can imagine you, as a Dutch farmer, every time you meet a person who doesn't know you and you tell them you're a farmer, I'm sure you hear, oh, how could you come here? The government's so awful. The weather's so awful. How could you be a farmer? You'd be so much richer and happier in Europe, blah, blah, blah. So is my sort of gut feeling about your personal experience correct? Or am I becoming a true Russian pessimist myself?
No, that's totally like that. Especially if you are Dutch, you are really welcome in Russia, and if you even do in agriculture, you are more than welcome. So it's always doors are always open. So yes, it's indeed a big advance to be a Dutch guy working in agriculture. I think that's the biggest advance you can have.
Oh, you know, I know some people who want to come to Russia and start a farm here. That's kind of their dream. So, as someone who's done this, do you have any advice for them about starting a farm as a foreign person in Russia? You know, there's a lot of aspects to farming, and there's plenty of room to make mistakes. So, give us some advice.
Start smaller, then do the half what you want to do, because you always have the ability to expand double, triple, quadruple, 10 times, 100 times. But the biggest problem is land is cheap, but you have to put more into it in the first few years to make it really working. So if you buy a hectare of land in the Netherlands, you know it's already cultivated for 100 years, and you know what to expect. Here you have land which you plow the first time since 10 years, 20 years, maybe 50 years, and there's still not the amount of nutrients and water and air in the ground. So it's not working really how you should expect. So it's better just to save some money in your pocket and do half good than do everything bad. That's the same thing what I say. You can make money, you can lose money. And if you lose money in the first year, you don't have money in the second year. And if you spend only half in the first year, you have money left for the second year. Because the first year you have still a lot of things to learn on this moment. is sheep and goat. That definitely. Why? Because prices are relatively high, especially for cheap meat, for sheep meat, because there are more and more Muslims in Russia, Syria, Iran, Iraq. They're asking for sheep because in the last 5 years in the last 10 years they ate every sheep that was running around in their country, so there are no sheep anymore left, and it's too dry, or it's relatively too dry. So sheep meat is really expensive at this moment, and so it's all. He is right about um, uh, the potential of profit is much higher. It's like double than cows, but it's also infrastructure. So all you need to there is no well, there is a goat milk market, but or you need to sell it small in your city or in your village, so you can have like 10, 20, 30 goats, or you need 1,000, 2,000, or 3,000 goats, because then you can deliver it by truck to Moscow or St. Petersburg or another big city. And that are the only two cities which can produce high volume goat milk. So if you start with 2 tons of milk or 5 tons of milk, then or suddenly you are not, oh, what to do with the milk? So cow milk you can always sell, because in every city there is a cow milk factory. So that's also the problem of scale. I always say in Russia you can have with cows you can have several things. You can have 5 cows, 50 cows, 500 cows, or 5,000 cows. And with 5 cows you can buy a bucket and some rope and you're done. 50 cows you can build a small farm, do everything by yourselves like in Europe. Or you can do 500 cows. You have some 10 people working for you and managing and working yourself. Or you do 5,000 cows. You manage everything with a lot of people. So that's the same thing with goats. Or you need to do small, or you need to go big.
So anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video and you like the opinions coming out of my big fat mouth, then join up on my Telegram channel. That's Tim Kirby Hardcore on